As a super fan, this movie gave me things that I didn't even know that I needed.
Can we just say David Arquette literally gave the performance of his life?
He didn't have his badge. He didn't have the people in his life. He was ready to go.
I just knew Gail left Dewey. And then to find out that it was Dewey who actually left her really shocked me.
I'd be cocky too. No freaking person can kill me.
You didn't see any smiles on her. She was just, eh.
She goes, I'm Billy's daughter. You're Billy's daughter. Yes, you are.
Jenna Ortega, to me, she was the best performer in that movie.
Everybody on this panel is nodding their head right now.
Fans are what lead a franchise, like what you're doing right now. You're asking people, what do you want to see in a film?
It's not to discredit what fans bring to the table, but it's not just like anybody can be a writer. Just like anybody can be an actor. No, you can't.
Welcome everyone, I'm your host William Yelton, and today we will be talking with 10 strangers who have just finished watching Scream, otherwise known as Scream 5, let's be real, for the first time. Tonight, we hear these 10 superfans give their raw reactions and opinions to the 5th film in the franchise. Some of the people on this panel will have loved what they've seen, while others might have hated it. However, all viewpoints are respected, but debate is encouraged. At the end of the discussion, each panelist will rank the film 1 to 10, and I will average up the results to give this movie the official rating provided by the men and women on this panel. I hope you at home will join us for this conversation, and while you're at it, feel free to click that like and subscribe button. Any support is greatly appreciated. Without further ado, I present to you this episode of Who Needs a Film Critic. In the description box below, there are time codes to this discussion. Also, there is a sign-up link available if you would like to be a future panelist. All right, now that we got all of that out of the way, before we get to the movie itself, I just kind of want to gauge the level of fandom that is represented on this call. So raise your hand if you are a day one fan of Scream. Like you remember going to the theaters back in 1996. All right, so we have 4 people that are like day one fans.
Yeah, I was 13 years old when I saw it in theaters. I was a big horror movie buff back then and a huge Wes Craven fan. So I had to beg my mother to take me to the theater. And when we went, it was my mother, my sister, and I, and just 2 other people in the theater. So I was already telling myself, this movie isn't going to do well in theaters. And we loved it. And the rest is history. After that, it just exploded.
Did your mom regret taking her 13-year-old to see the original Scream?
No, the funny thing is, and they don't remember now because they're older, but I was watching horror movies when I was 5. The first horror movie I remember watching was A Nightmare on Elm Street. And that's when I fell in love with Wes Craven. But why they were allowing me to watch it then, I have no idea.
I'm afraid of what you must have turned out to be if you're watching that at 5. Like
I know, right? People sometimes wonder.
All right, now I want the people on the panel to raise their hand if they're fairly new to the franchise, a fan nonetheless, but somewhat new to the scene. Raise your hand. Maggie and Claire, it's never too late to be a fan. And the last question on the fandom subject, who wants to make the argument that you're like the biggest Scream fan out there? Who wants to make the argument?
I will definitely make that argument. I was involved in a huge production. It was called Scream Comes Home, and it was put on in the actual house, that Stu Macher's house. I was the director of the entire ending of the film. So scene 118, we reenacted the entire ending from start to finish.
Everybody dies but us, because we gotta carry on the sequel. That's right, baby, because there's gotta be a sequel!
Like, if you have a tattoo of Ghostface on your butt, like, I appreciate that, but I feel like I beat you.
So based on what I'm hearing, I found the right crowd. Y'all are definitely Scream fanatics, so I am sure you have a lot to say about the newest Scream. This was the first film in the franchise to not have Wes Craven at the helm. So did the new directors deliver? You should all see the question on your screen. Please click yes or no, and then we will analyze the results. 70% of you said yes, while 30% of you said no. So raise your hand if you said yes. The 7 people that said yes, please raise your hand. All right, let's go to Whitney. Whitney, why do you feel as if these directors delivered?
I honestly think they did a great job of bringing in, I feel like, the new things in the generations we're dealing with now, but still mixing it with the old. I really loved, like, in the opening scenes and stuff with the whole, like, security with the phone thing. I thought that was genius. And I just really loved the fact that the characters still had relation to the first Scream.
Taking this film into your hands is really a daunting task. And I think that as fans, we really hope that something like that goes into the hands of somebody we know will take care of it. And I think that happened here. Their love for it really kind of showed in the work of it. And, for me, I was satisfied.
Nothing was sloppy. The worst thing was, the main character seeing Billy, which kind of goes back to Scream 3. I'm a huge Scream 3 fan, by the way. That obviously could have been left on the cutting room floor, all of her interactions with Skeet. But outside of that, it was really it was tight, it delivered, it was sharp, didn't drag. There were no moments where I threw my arms up, and I'm very critical.
Who agrees with Adam in the sense that Billy was not needed?
I didn't think they needed Billy in this movie. My issue with bringing him in was I feel like now the filmmakers are treading in dangerous waters with that. It reminded me a little bit of the Halloween series. They had to keep rebooting themselves because they kept expanding on the original story. So every time you looked at everything, it always led back to Laurie Strode. So with this movie, I was hoping the directors would make their own movie per se, since Wes is gone, and would just have a little bit of homages and Easter eggs. So going back to Billy, I was just saying to myself, okay, here we go again. We keep going back to the original. When are we going to move forward?
I actually thought it was a beautiful way to bring him back and to add some suspense into the plot, because at first when he made his appearance, we had no idea they were related. So I thought it was very interesting and added a little okay, what's going to happen? Plus, I thought it was really cool because then it kind of explains how haunted she was by the fact that she was related to him, and how hiding it really suppressed on her mental health as well. So I thought it was a beautiful thing to bring him back, but to also show what that can do to a person who maybe even in real life, if they're related to a serial killer, they're going to be haunted by that. So I thought it was really a good touch.
Can we just say David Arquette literally gave the performance of his life in this movie? Take a shot, take a drink, because I've never cried so hard in my entire life for the death of any character. And I cry all the time at TV shows, all the time. And
I feel like Dewey was our Han Solo.
Yeah, I could
100%.
Scream fans, absolutely.
I never liked him. I kind of wish he would have stayed dead in the first one, but I liked him the best in this movie.
Yeah, you're about to make people. Can we?
No. I want to hear why did you not like Dewey throughout?
He was just too slapstick. His acting, I just think, was so terrible, and the only reason they kept him around was to really be a plot driver for Gale. I feel and kind of keeping the trio together, but. This movie, I did like him in this movie. It's the first one that I liked him in. I was glad that they finally got rid of him, but he did go out real good for me.
Brandon, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I agree with Edward. I never liked Dewey, but what I liked ironically about him in this movie was that everything that happened to this movie was 12 years, 11 years, whatever it was later. And so I feel like Dewey and Gale's dynamic was very interesting, also just given real life. But Dewey seemed very relatable. That is real, the type of trauma that, real life Dewey would have gone through. You can go two different routes, I guess. Technically, you can go Dewey's route, or you can go Gale's route, So I like that it was also very realistic.
With that in mind, it made Courtney Cox's performance a little bit more hard to watch, because with his performance being so good, Courtney Cox's felt a little bit flat in comparison.
I felt the performance was very real. I mean, I was crying so hard. For me, I feel like I could feel her emotion. And even towards the end when she's like, you know what? Instead of writing a book on all this nonsense because I'm done with it, she's like, I'm going to write about him. I thought that was so beautiful, and character growth for Gale too. She's always been so career driven. It's been about her. Yeah. So I thought it was a beautiful moment for Gale to finally be like, you know what? He was kind of my end game and I missed that. And I'm going to honor that. So I loved it. I thought it was a really good performance.
Did anybody think that when they were crying in that scene, that was actually legitimate emotion between these two actors?
100%. Not to interject again, sorry. But she's said, and he has also said, as co-parents, they've come together for their children. I'm sure she thought from the perspective of like, this is my husband, this is my ex-husband, this is the father of my children. I'm going to respond as if he actually passed away.
Regarding that scene specifically where they're crying, I felt the emotions in that. I loved it. I felt like it was cut short. Like it went by really quickly. So it made it even more shocking when he died.
I was actually in shock because I just knew Gail left Dewey. And then to find out that it was Dewey who actually left her really shocked me. And I think it was at that moment it officially hit me that Gail was never meant to live in a small town and Dewey was never meant for a big city. So sometimes love isn't enough. So I think they really love each other, but they can't find their happiness with themselves. And I think that's why that hurt showed in their performance. That's what I felt.
He held this movie up. When he died, in a sense, I felt like this movie failed.
I think the way he was killed is my problem. It was so dumb. It's like you have this iconic character that's lived through 4 Screams, and that's like he dies answering a phone or a text call, a message. And I was like, I remember sitting in the theater and I was like, this is stupid. It's like you're rooting for him. And then you're like, when that happened, I was like, what the hell? He deserved like a very, I feel like, better send-off than that.
I'm glad he went out kind of in a blaze of unfortunate glory, but I do think it should have just been like the shock value of someone jumping up, not him looking at his phone.
But that's the thing. His spirit's gone. His willingness to keep going is gone, and it's evident from minute 1 in the film, like when he first shows
But I mean,
up.
but just right before they were walking to the elevator, he put up such a good fight, like that we expect from him, you know. And I feel like
to save
that just that last
people,
10
to
seconds.
save others.
To save others is what Adam said. So Adam, it's interesting. You're saying that he didn't have the will to survive.
Yeah. He wanted to get those people out of there, but maybe he went back to die. He didn't have anybody anymore. He didn't have his badge. He didn't have the people in his life. He was ready to go.
But let's recap all the times that Dewey got taken down. Part 2, he steps on pizza and gets distracted. Part 3, he gets a knife thrown at him, which makes him fall downstairs. Like, this isn't a smart guy. He's not a mastermind. He's never had an extremely clever moment in all 5 movies. I think it's exactly how Dewey would have went out, by looking at his phone at the most inappropriate time.
How they brought each character into is very fitting for the character itself. Like Dewey's, of course, the one who is still in town. Of course, they're going to be like, we need your help. Like, we don't know what we're doing. Gail comes in, of course, after the text and everything that she gets. And of course is like, okay, I'm here to get the story as well as be here to support and help in whatever I can. And I think it was very fitting that Sydney, of course, the last to come in. I mean, she's probably like, I'm just going to stay away as long as I can. But I thought it was amazing too that she brought up the points to Sam of saying like, you can't run from this. But I thought it was interesting that this new generation still was like not listening to the originals and was trying to do it their way.
I love Sydney Prescott. She's my favorite final girl, but I also feel like she should have been more in danger. She was kind of cocky in this movie. Like, I get it. You have final girl status, but like, I want to feel like you're at risk, not a simple stab. Like, I want to feel like we may lose my favorite final girl.
Yeah, I 100% agree. There needed to be some level of stakes involved for her. Just from a trauma perspective, like that, you're going back to a place to, again, you have final girl status, you think you can take this on, but I definitely, in watching Nev and Courtney specifically, I just kind of sat there, I was like, come on guys, like, you're bleeding out, Courtney. You literally got stabbed in a kidney, like, come on, like, just fight a little bit harder. And then when they, of course, light Amber on fire, it was just with such confidence that I was kind of like, you're killing a high school student and like, you're doing this like you're doing basic algebra.
I agree and disagree with your statement. I agree in the sense that I think it'd be far more interesting if they gave Nev Campbell, Sydney Prescott, more of the psychological damage, having to go back to her old town. However, where I disagree is I feel like they couldn't do that this film because they had the character of Sam, who's experiencing the exact same story.
Right.
So it would be two people
agree with
experiencing that trauma. But
Yeah.
We've also seen Sydney return to Woodsboro many times, so we don't want to have that song again.
She
Absolutely.
kicked ass in the 4th one. She was pretty cocky in the 4th one too. She kept telling them to come at her like,
I'd
I
be
think-
cocky too. No freaking person can kill me.
and I
Yeah,
think
she earned that.
She
She's
was
basically
different.
the good version of Michael Myers. You can't kill her.
I don't know, but like if you're gonna go into a place where your trauma started, like you can be in the hometown. Like I have trauma, right? I can go to my hometown. I can be completely fine in my hometown. I can go to the Walmart or the friggin' Piggly Wiggly and be like, great. But if I go to the house where my trauma started, it's a problem. The way that she walked into Stumacher's house, like not even really caring, I feel like she maybe should have cared more. I saw like the whole silhouette with her looking at the house, but like me, I would have been in genuine terror walking back into the house where my trauma started, being
But
cornered.
she
in
wrote
the
a book
same
about
place.
overcoming trauma. She became a celebrity for her Out of Darkness book, which was all about overcoming your trauma, getting strong from it. And this is 10 years after that.
There's a way to illustrate that in a 3-second,
Yeah.
the way the camera moves. There could have been like a tunnel vision moment to just be like, this is going to be hard for her, but she can handle it.
We've had that before with Sydney in Scream 3 when she's on set and she's in the studio and she's
Right.
That is true.
She's
I love
re-entering.
that sequence.
It's
Very
amazing.
true. Very true.
So,
very
so
true.
to revisit that territory again, it just seems kind of like redundant.
They had that reveal as well. When she was on the phone with Sam and said that she was in Stumacher's house, they did like that big pan out showing the house. So I feel like they kind of did accomplish that, and it would have almost been redundant to do it again.
That was really cool. I would have been interested to know like people's reactions if that part wasn't in the trailer, you know, like because we knew that was coming, but like that whole scene with the party, like if I had not seen the trailer, I probably might not have known that that's where they were because there were so many people, so much going on.
Full
And then
disclosure,
that
I
one
did not
time-
know. I did not know.
I
I
still
saw
didn't
the
know
trailer. I
either.
saw the
So,
trailer.
how was
and
that movie? How was that moment for you?
I saw the trailer and I didn't pick up on the fact that they were back in Stu's house. And you know, the whole movie, once I got to the party, I had this weird sense of familiarity. And it wasn't until that moment in the film where I go, oh my God, duh.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
I
it's
love
the
and
house.
Sam's just she's looking around, she's on the phone, she's looking around and the camera pans and you're like, oh, those are the stairs. Oh man, so I think that would have been cool, like if I had experienced it like you did, that would have been a really cool moment.
Now that we've covered the main returning characters, now let's turn our attention to the secondary characters. Each Scream film ushers in a new group of suspects for all of us to chew on. This film is no different. You should see a poll on your screen with all of the new characters from the movie on it. I want you to click the name of the character you enjoyed the most, and then we will analyze the results. The answer to who your favorite character was is by far and away Tara Carpenter, Sam's younger sister. She gets 7 out of 10 votes on this panel, 70%. So let's get Tara out of the way. Why was Tara your favorite character? Who wants to start us off?
Jenna Ortega. To me, she was the best performer in that movie. She just blew me away. I was
She
not
did
expecting
excellent.
that performance.
Everybody on this
owned
panel
that
is
opening.
nodding their head right now.
Yeah, she owned that
Well-
opening. I think she's the reason why that opener was as good as I thought it was.
Literally seeing someone survive that first opening scene, which I feel like never happens. I feel like I just rooted from her from the jump after that in general, because I was like, this girl just pretty much survived something unrealistic, which doesn't happen. So that literally, like, I just was rooting for her since like this 10th second in.
Yeah, I actually really liked her. I think she had a lot of complex emotions throughout the whole thing, and she felt kind of relatable. I don't know why. Maybe she's a little sassy. That was why. But so I just enjoyed her as a person and her storyline.
I think she was just very believable from start to end, and all of her experiences, especially. I mean, going from not seeing her sister for years and kind of their mom clearly not really being the picture, considering her daughter literally just got stabbed and hurt. And she's like, oh, I'm stuck at a business conference in London. Like, okay, you can't jump on a plane. So I feel like she was a very believable character in the sense that her vulnerability really did show. All of her reactions to everything going on just felt very realistic and very relatable.
What I find most interesting is that no one on this panel said that Sam, Billy's daughter, was their favorite character. And in many ways, you could argue she's the main character of this movie.
Yeah, I thought her performance was fine, but I think she just had I am Billy's daughter just looming over her through the entire movie, that she really didn't learn anything about her. And I think that ultimately hurt us learning anything about her character.
She had one note the whole time. You didn't see any smiles on her. She was just, eh. It was like a chore to watch her.
She was very hurt.
She goes, I'm Billy's daughter. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're Billy's daughter. Like, what? Like, yes, you are. And you just didn't. It just, I feel like they had to keep bringing him up to like remind us of like how important she was in the movie.
I actually just have to say, I think the only moment I liked from her was when at the end she was basically like, don't mess with the daughter of a serial killer, and just went off though. That was the moment that I was like, okay, this, I actually liked of your character. Everything else was awful, but that ending point, I was like, this is great.
Raise your hand if you agree with that. All right, so
Too
almost
hokey.
everybody. Zach said too hokey.
I'm just not a fan of those like kind of like one-liners at the end. Don't mess with the, daughter of a serial killer. It just felt kind of like a little too forced, like the delivery,
Matthew?
I kind of have a far out theory about that scene when she goes ape shit on Richie. Because I saw the movie twice. After the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that was a lot of times to stab somebody. And then like I was driving home and I was like, I wonder if that means anything, like the amount of times that she actually stabbed him. So when I went back to see it again, I counted how many times she stabbed him. So she stabs him 22 times and then slashes his throat. I was like, what could the significance of that be? So then I started writing down all the victims from all the movies. So from Casey all the way to Milton at the end of 3, there are 22 victims. So I wonder if that's directly related or that's just me being like super.
Of course
like,
it is. I mean, it's no secret that the directors are huge fanboys of the movies. I would imagine there's no way that's a coincidence. It's slightly creepy that you counted. I don't know how you counted that fast. But...
Yeah.
Are you counting like the death of the other Ghostface? Like
no, just the
Roman
victims.
Bridger? No, you're just counting victims only, not other people
Yeah.
that Sydney has killed. Oh, okay, cool.
Every time a movie comes out, people always theorize, oh, what if it's Sydney? What if Sydney's the killer? And super fans are always like, it's absolutely not going to be Sydney. That'd be terrible. Who thinks that Sam could be a killer? They talked about the mental health issue, schizophrenia. She now got a taste of that bloodlust. That could develop over the next film and end up being a her versus Tara as the new final girl at the end.
All right, so who said Mindy is their favorite character? All right, Marcus.
Yeah, I said Mindy. Jenna gave the best performance in my opinion, but Mindy was my favorite. She's clearly Randy's substitute in the movie, but her speech about, what films mean to people, I connected with a lot. Because my entire life, I've loved movies, and I never feel like I can speak to someone about it, and they can relate to what I'm saying on maybe something significant I was going on in my life, and movies got me through this. So I really connected with that character, but some of her comments with the rules had me cracking up, like with the Jack Quaid one when he said, I'll be right back. And she said, you're dead. So I really enjoyed her character. I was glad she made it out, but yeah.
Who said Wes as their favorite character? Zach.
His death scene besides Dewey was the best, going in the cheek, very slow. But his relationship with his mom, it's something that hasn't been really touched on in other Scream movies, like a closeness of a living parent and child. I really liked that. Like, I really liked that the fact they were so close. It didn't seem like the dad was necessarily involved. And that's never been done. It made me care more for his character than any others.
And then finally, one person on the panel said Amber. So who's the person that said Amber? Adam.
I don't know why they needed 6 white women brunettes. There could have been a little bit more diversity in terms of the look of those girls. They became almost so interchangeable. It's like, how many white women need to be in this movie that look the same? But when she was on camera, she did a good job.
The characters of Sam and Tara, they're not white, they're Latina.
Yeah.
And
brown hair, just give us some.
But if you notice in this movie, did you all notice that other than Gail and Sydney, it's all minorities that survived? And that's the first time we've seen this in horror, and it wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't thrown in our face like Scream 2, and it wasn't tokenized like 3 and 4.
I do think to
noticed-
Adam's point, though, it was very difficult for me to distinguish Amber from Liv.
When she died, I literally went home and asked my daughter, I said, where'd Liv go? What, like, did you see? Like, did y'all see where Liv went?
When
And my
when
two
she
kids
died.
were like, she got shot in the head. I'm like, wait a damn minute. She got
In the
shot
huddle.
in the head.
In the huddle.
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean she
Yeah.
got shot in the head? I thought she just disappeared. And
I don't
my
remember
daughter
that either.
was like,
It was a
actually.
very
Who remembers that
forgettable-
Liv was
I
shot in the
think-
head? Raise
That's
your
the
hand if you-
reveal.
Okay,
That's the
one, two, three.
reveal.
Is
yeah,
it?
but
very-
it, the
a very
reveal
That's how
wasn't
Amber reveals
shocking.
it. She shoots
It was a
her.
very
But
forgettable.
that's the kind of it was the kind of like if you blink you miss it kind of thing.
What are we
When you have a
doing?
director like Wes Craven, I'm just saying he would have handled that and every other scene with so much precision. Everything would look like a choreographed dance, and no
Yes.
scene would be forgotten.
Which is why it had to be sudden to really break what Wes had. It's staying true to the original, but it's surprising us.
Two of the characters on this list that you just voted on were the killers, of course, Richie and Amber. Was this pairing a good one? Did we like these two as Ghostface in this film? You should each see a poll on your screen. Please click yes or no.
Whoa.
shit.
Did
I'm
you
not
like
surprised.
the new Ghostface? 50% of you said yes, 50% of you said no.
I feel like I knew it was Amber. She had just like a weird vibe the whole time, but there's something about her where I was like, she's not too obvious that it would be her, but like, so it wasn't surprising. I didn't like her as a person, but, and then her connection to the boyfriend, I was like, he met on a chat room and did this. It just seemed a little like,
Very Scream 2, met in a chat room.
as bad as
with serial killers.
Scream 2.
So it's like a little different, but it's just like felt empty to me. That's
Y'all see-
mainly why.
Y'all said retrend of the second one. I have to say my favorite Ghostface is the reporter that's like the secondary
Bob.
reporter.
Yes, that's my
I
favorite.
love
me
that
too.
guy.
Yeah.
She
I
was
like
my
her.
favorite. She was my favorite.
Who
So
who
I'll-
likes a Ghostface?
I didn't like it the first time I saw the movie, but when I went back the second time, I actually really liked them as Ghostface because you can tell throughout the entire movie. They have these subtle looks that they give each other certain times where, like, when you go back and rewatch it, it's like it makes sense. It was right in front of us the whole time that these two were the killer.
I liked
And-
their back and forth.
Yeah.
That they were pointing fingers at each other. I
Yeah.
don't think Killer's done that before.
And Mickey Madison, I think it's Mickey. Yeah. I just think she gives such a great performance after the reveal. Forgettable before, but she played crazy really, really
she's
well.
got good
and I
crazy
like
eyes.
that.
Her death scene is iconic.
I mean, they acted the scenes out good. They looked like wackadoodles for sure.
Who do we like better as a Ghostface? Perhaps that would have been the better question. Raise your hand if you liked Amber better as Ghostface. Raise your hand. 1, 2,
I think Richie brought nothing.
and then raise your hand if
Nothing.
Richie was your favorite Ghostface out of the two.
I honestly really did like Richie a lot. I thought it was really witty and kind of funny that he was like really chill about it too, because he's sitting there like watching the movies and stuff as like they're actually living out the killings and everything. And he's even like watching little YouTube videos like, oh yeah, I just watched the 8th one and they're right, this sucks. And it was just like ignored the whole time. So I thought that was actually brilliant and really witty, that it was like literally in front of our faces. He is the killer. He obviously has an obsession with these movies, but everyone was overlooking him, even though he was making it obvious the whole time.
The one thing that was actually cool about the Amber Ghostface is the fact that she literally was texting Tara and was actually Ghostfaced on her own phone. In that beginning scene, like I was like, who's Amber? And then it's like, oh, Amber, you're actually Ghostface texting. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was super smart.
And every call was made from Amber's phone, under Amber's phone, and everyone just thought it was cloned. It was just
Yep.
right out in the
Yeah,
open
same
the whole
thing,
time.
yeah,
That's really
yeah,
cool.
Same thing.
And
Like
I
that.
liked how whenever Ghostface killed, like used both hands or like hit the knife with one hand, like it made it very believable that Mickey was the one behind the mask when you go back and rewatch it.
Not will there be another Scream film, because let's be honest, I think that Scream 6, Scream 7, Scream 108 will probably happen. But do you think that the 5th film should be a conclusion of the franchise? So do you think that they should make more films? 70% of this panel said that yes, there should be more films, while 30% said no, there should not be more films. 30%ers, raise your hand. All right, Whitney, start us off.
I personally just feel that when it comes to bringing the main characters back and things like that, it's just eventually going to run out. And I feel like the minute that they aren't in it, they kind of do either have to come up with a super new idea, otherwise it's just going to tank. And that's kind of how I feel about it in that way. Kind of like when we mentioned, maybe if, you know, the sister snaps and now she's bloodthirsty, that could lead on a whole new thing that maybe they could finally stray away from the main characters. But I feel like once they get to the point where they don't bring them back and they're trying to kind of still keep the original Scream in it, it's just going to tank otherwise.
Don't blame the movies on the fandom. Also, ask the fandom what they want to see. So Rian Johnson in Star Wars, nobody ever critiques the audience. Nobody ever asks the audience, hey, what do you want to see in a fandom? Like, what do you want to see in a movie? 100%. I feel like a lot of these movies would be saved if they actually, like what you're doing right now. You're asking people, what do you want to see in a film? That's what the filmmakers need to do. Fans are what lead a franchise. Ask any Star Wars fans. They will lead your franchise. They will give you cash money to make the things that they've read, seen, envisioned come to life. Same
I
with
agree.
Scream.
I agree with you on Star Wars because I'm not a fan of those at all. But I think it's a balancing act. I think if you're giving fans all that they want, then it ends up just being fan service and fan fiction. You can go online and look at it up. But I think that, yes, I think there definitely needs to be more room of fans and the filmmakers and the critics. Hence, who needs a film critic?
I wanted to hop in here because fan culture, I actually studied that in my graduate program, and I'll be going back hopefully to get my PhD to study fan culture and the impact that it has on an economic level with entertainment. And your point is exactly right, Summer, that a lot of industry level professionals they feel like at some level they can't do that because, like you said, William, like it's going to get to a fan fiction level of we're just taking adaptations and putting it on screen. And we saw this with Game of Thrones, that they did not listen to the fans. It was a very clear, well, we gave you this, so obviously we could take liberties here. When in reality, like it's very much not even on the same spectrum of what fans were expecting. We now also live in an era where the feedback loop is immediate. I went to a movie last night. I posted 5 minutes later whether or not I liked it or not. That could impact someone's decision in the next couple of hours, which means you're not getting money. I think that idea is something that Hollywood is still wrestling with. And going back to the kind of the reason why these killers were doing what they were doing, they want to have control over their IP. They want to have control over what they're doing. But the way that this movie painted that idea makes it feel like they were saying, hey guys, by the way, we really appreciate your opinion, but like, don't be this extreme. Don't be this loud about it. But that definitely, I walked away with that. I was like, oh, but you could have landed the plane a little bit better.
I look at it and it's like, as a super fan, this movie gave me things that I didn't even know that I needed. The filmmakers are huge fans. They said they became directors because of Wes Craven. They had all the characters, Sidney, Gale, Dewey, read their script, give their input to how these characters would act in these situations. So I think in this movie, they did put in the work, but I think no matter what you have, everyone's always going to want something different.
And Claire, being a new fan, are you interested in watching where the franchise goes?
Yeah, I think so. I don't feel like it closed it well. Like I feel like that wasn't a good bookend. I feel like it kind of closed the main three, the OGs. Like you could move forward without them, in my opinion, and really see where it goes with Sam and Tara, I think was her name. But I don't think it was a good final note. Good movie, just not a good bookend.
So then do they bring Sidney and Gale back in the next movie, or are they done?
They are done.
They're done.
I don't
That's
think
the point.
They're friends with Wes, and they wanted to do that for Wes, and now they want to walk away most likely.
Yeah, I don't think they can afford them, to be honest.
I really want them to walk away. That was my major thing. I wanted them to come in, give the time to the newbies, but give them just the right amount of time to do what they have to do and give them the proper closure in order to close out their character. I think that was one of the things that the writers got right in this movie.
Raise your hand if you think it's the last we've ever seen of Gail or Sydney. Everybody on the whole panel. Wow, I'm excited. I got chill bumps because if they actually do that, I would agree. I think we've seen the last of Gail 100%. I'm not ready to say that about Sydney yet, but I think Gail definitely had her closing line.
The Scream movies are constantly about reinventing itself and being one step ahead of the audience and of the fans. It's not to discredit what fans bring to the table, because they absolutely bring a lot, and our opinions and wants and everything are very valuable. But there's something to be said about what is storytelling and all the work that goes into learning how to craft a story and tell one. It's not just like anybody can be a writer, just like anybody can be an actor. No, you can't. So I think if they do continue with the franchise, it will actually be it should, I hope, actually be a reboot a little bit down the road, completely fresh and really, really working with what truly worked. And that's what I hope.
All right, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to review at this moment. And moving forward on this channel, instead of 1 to 5 rating system, we'll be doing a 1 to 10 rating system. Each of you has sent me your ratings for this movie, 1 to 10, 1 meaning you hated it, and 10 being you absolutely loved it. I have averaged all the numbers together, and it is time for me to reveal the results. Tonight, this panel has rated this movie as a 7.1. All right, well, that concludes today's discussion on Scream 5. As said at the top, I would really appreciate the support, so please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We have a lot in the mix right now. You can check out our Euphoria panel every Tuesday evening with panelists talking about season 2. We also have a group of 11 panelists who are watching the Harry Potter franchise for the first time. Currently, they have only seen Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, but coming soon, they will be talking about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I would like to thank the panelists for giving me their time tonight, and to the viewers watching at home. That's all for now. Have a good night.